My girlfriend agreed to marry me, but only in an open relationship. She then cheated with her assistant. But when I started dating someone else, she said she didn't want to share me anymore. I know many will judge me, and I do not blame them. From the outside, one always thinks they would act differently. But this story is not to justify myself, but to show how, even from the greatest humiliation, one can rise if one does not lose faith in oneself. For many years, my appearance was a heavy burden. I will not say I was the ugliest, but it was evident that I did not stand out. I had a mix of shyness, insecurity, and low self-esteem that always made me feel invisible. And when you see yourself as less, you end up believing that any good thing that happens to you is a gift you do not deserve. That is how I met Tanya. Tanya was the complete opposite of me. Charismatic, extroverted, magnetic. When she arrived at a place, conversations turned towards her, eyes followed her. She was one of those people who seemed to live on a separate plane, as if they always knew what to say and how to look. I was her shadow. That is how I felt, and that is also how others saw me. When we started dating, nobody understood. Some friends asked me if it was a joke. Others assumed I was a millionaire or that I had something hidden. But the truth is that, for some reason I never fully understood, Tanya liked being with me. Or at least that is what she said. We were together for 4 years. She never treated me badly, but she also did not try hard to hide that I was not her ideal type. She would make comments like, "If you were taller, would you be perfect?" Or, "I love your eyes. If only you had a jawline." One learns to laugh at that, to take it as jokes, but they leave marks. When we completed 4 years of relationship, I decided to ask her to marry me. I know, many will think it was too soon. We were young, barely 23 years old, but for me, she was the best thing that had ever happened to me. I wanted to do things right, give her something special, show her that it did not matter what others said. I was determined to stay by her side. I planned everything carefully. I went to her favorite restaurant. I asked for special permission to decorate it before opening time. I placed lights, flowers, and a song she loved. I borrowed money to pay for everything, without telling anyone. When she arrived, she was surprised, she was excited. I thought everything would go perfectly, until I knelt down and showed her the ring. She looked at me and said, "Are you crazy?" No. My heart stopped, literally. I did not know whether to get up, laugh, or run away. But then, she burst out laughing and added, "It was a joke." Of course, but with one condition. I froze. What condition? And that is where everything collapsed. That it be an open marriage, she said, like someone offering to exchange potatoes for a salad. What do you mean, open? I asked, not fully understanding. Each of us can be with other people, you know, you and me, but without strict ties. Free modern. I told her I did not want to share her with anyone, that if we were going to get married, it had to be a real commitment, not a revolving door where anyone comes and goes. But she did not flinch. "It is your decision. I love you, but I need something more physical, more emotional, outside of this. If you cannot accept that, I understand, but I will not marry under any other condition." There I was, with the ring in my hand, with my heart in pieces, knowing I had 2 paths: tell her no and probably lose her, or accept, betraying what I had always believed about love. And like a fool, I accepted, not because I thought it was right, not because I wanted it, but because I felt I could not aspire to more. I was afraid that, if I lost her, no one else would look at me with those eyes, because even if they were eyes full of judgment, even if her affection came with conditions, it was the only thing I had known. She hugged me. She told me she was happy, that this would make us stronger, that we were a modern couple. I did not answer. I did not feel happy. I felt defeated. I did not know it at that moment, but that decision, the most humiliating I had ever made, was going to be the beginning of the biggest change in my life. And although it took me a while to understand, over time I learned that, sometimes, you have to hit rock bottom to learn to swim to the surface. A few months later, we got married. Nothing fancy, something simple, with just a few family members and close friends. For me, it was one of the happiest days of my life. While I watched her dressed in white, walking towards me, I swear I thought I had done the right thing. I thought that everything else, the condition, the doubt, the fear, all of that would go away with time, that the commitment would make us stronger, that the love I felt would be enough to sustain us. But it was not like that. Just a few weeks after the honeymoon, everything started to change. Tanya started going out alone again. First, it was dinners with friends, then longer outings, nights she did not tell me about. At first, I did not suspect anything strange, because she had always been very sociable and I wanted to trust her, but I could not help feeling that growing discomfort. One night, she dressed up more than usual, a short dress, strong perfume, makeup she did not even wear for weddings. I asked her if we were going somewhere together, and she laughed. She told me no, that she was going with some friends. I was left with a strange feeling, but I did not say anything, until it became a habit. Every weekend was the same. Me at home and her out. Me cooking for both of us and her eating in restaurants with people I did not know. Me waiting to see her arrive with a smile and her returning with an air of someone else's satisfaction, as if she came from a world I had no access to. One night, I could not take it anymore and asked her directly what was happening, if she had met someone, if something had changed. I did not yell. I did not accuse her. I just needed to understand what was happening. Her answer was simple, cold, cruel. Do not forget what you accepted before we got married. This is an open marriage. You cannot imitate me or tie me down. She did not say it angrily. She said it with that mocking tone, like someone remembering an inside joke, as if she knew she had nothing to fear, as if she enjoyed seeing me doubt. What is more, you should also go out and look for something out there, right? She added with a twisted smile. Although, well, you know how the market is, difficult, right? It hurt me more than I want to admit. It was not just the humiliation of seeing her walk away without remorse. It was also the fact that she said it knowing I had nowhere to go, that I was not the type of man people fight over. And she knew it, and she used it. The straw that broke the camel's back was a night when she brought her lover home. Yes, just like that. She told me a friend was coming over to watch a movie. I thought it was a co-worker or someone trustworthy, but no, it was the guy she was dating. She brought him home. They sat on the sofa, opened a bottle of wine, one I had bought, and put on a silly comedy, while I, in the same room, pretended to be busy on my phone so as not to explode. The worst part was not that she brought him. The worst part was that she did not care what I felt. She did not try to hide it. She did not even bother to give me a decent excuse. He was comfortable. She was too. And I was just another piece of furniture. When he left, she approached me, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "Thanks for being so mature about this. I swear it makes me feel calm. Not all men could handle this." And she went asleep. I stayed there, sitting, without moving, with my gaze fixed on the turned-off screen. I felt like I had been emptied inside. For 2 weeks, I was not myself. I shut myself in. I did just enough to work and not collapse. I did not talk. I did not go out. I felt less, as if my existence had been reduced to being the legal husband of someone who did not even consider me a partner. I know this will sound pathetic to many, but it was at that point that I hit rock bottom. I did not want to lose her. Yes, I still loved her, but I was also beginning to hate myself for tolerating so much. And in the midst of that desperation, I did something I never thought I would do. I bought a course from one of those self-help coaches. Yes, one of those guys who yells on YouTube, who talks to you about testosterone, about becoming a man again, who wears tight black t-shirts and speaks with the voice of a Lion documentary. One of those who promise to change your life if you stop being a simp and start focusing on yourself. Do not judge me, really. At first, I took it with skepticism. I thought it was pure talk for desperate people, but they had some reason. Maybe not everything, but enough to make me wake up. What stuck with me the most was something one of those guys said. You are not ugly. You are neglected. And yes, it may sound frivolous, but it is true. Looks matter, even if people want to say no, that what is inside is what counts. We all know that first impression is everything. I myself had abandoned myself. I had given up before even trying, and it showed. So I did something new. I focused on myself. I started running. I joined a gym. I looked for a barber who really knew what he was doing. I changed my clothes. I started eating better, taking care of my skin, my posture, my voice. And not for her, not for revenge, not to please anyone, but for myself. For the first time in years, I wanted to like myself. Tanya noticed the change. At first, she made jokes. And who is this? What happened? Now you want to be an influencer. But then she started saying things like, you look good. I like how that shirt looks on you. You look different. But it was too late. I was not doing it for her. Something inside me had finally clicked. I finally understood that I did not need to beg for love, that I should not settle for less just because I felt I was not enough, that love is not begged for or negotiated in exchange for dignity. Tanya did not know it yet, but the one who accepted that open marriage no longer existed. After all that process of change, of months focusing on myself, of rebuilding myself physically and mentally, I decided to explore what had cost me so much to accept at first, the famous open marriage. I did not do it for revenge. I did not do it to punish her. I simply felt that, if she had lived that experience from day one, I had the same right. And besides, I no longer felt emotionally attached to her as before. So I downloaded Tinder. To my surprise, I did not have to wait long. Within a few hours, I already had several matches. Not all of them led to something real, of course, but the simple fact that women took the time to talk to me, to compliment me, to show interest, was something I was not used to experiencing. I am not going to lie. I felt a mixture of nerves, excitement, and confusion. It is addictive when you have been invisible for years and, suddenly, someone sees you. But I did not let it go to my head. I remembered who I was before. I remembered what led me to change, and I promised myself not to become a toxic version of myself. I was not going to use anyone. I just wanted to explore, to meet people, to understand if there really was something out there for me, beyond a relationship where I was the only one giving everything. Tanya noticed quickly. I, who used to beg for her attention, who lived for her, who looked for any excuse for a hug or a sweet word, no longer did. Not out of spite, but because, honestly, I no longer needed it. I had found a different source of validation, myself. On more than one occasion, she tried to seduce me. She would appear in new lingerie, caress me without warning, wear her favorite perfume. But something had changed. Her gestures no longer thrilled me. Her words no longer convinced me. The woman I once felt was unattainable was now just part of a past that was beginning to fade. And then, one day, I did the same thing she had done to me. I invited one of my dates home. Nothing scandalous. We watched a movie, ordered food, talked, kissed a couple of times. There was no sex, no need to take things further, but I am sure Tanya noticed. She walked through the living room in silence, frowning. She did not say anything, but the discomfort was palpable in the air. When the movie ended, my date went to the bathroom. At that moment, Tanya looked at me from the hallway and said in a low, firm voice, "It is time for her to go." I did not want to make a scene. I told my date to come with me, that we would see each other another day. We walked together to the door and said goodbye with a hug. When I returned, it was already past midnight. Tanya was still awake, sitting on the sofa, with her arms crossed and her eyes red. "How could you do this to me?" she said bluntly. I stopped, not because her claim surprised me, but because of how absurd it sounded coming from her. "Do what to you, Tanya?" "Go out with someone in an open marriage that you yourself proposed. But not like this, not in my house, not in front of me," she shouted, almost desperately. I realized I do not want this anymore. I do not want to share you. I want us to be you and me again. I looked at her, for the first time calmly, without fear, without needing to measure my words. "I am glad you finally realize it, Tanya, but this is no longer about what you want." "Of course it is. We are married, are we not? We are two people who made decisions. You decided to open this relationship. I accepted it. And thanks to that, I discovered a world I did not know. You showed me that there is more beyond you, and that I do not need to beg for affection to feel alive." She tried to touch my hand, but I gently pulled away. "So what? Are you going to leave me?" she asked, almost in a whisper. "Yes. The best thing will be to get divorced. I do not want to continue in something that no longer makes sense." That is when she lost control. She shouted, cried, said she would not give me a divorce, that she loved me, that she was confused, that it had been a phase, that we could try again, that we should go on a trip alone, just the two of us, a second honeymoon, that we should reconnect, that this time it would be different. "We can get through this stage," she said between sobs. "Just us, like before." I answered her firmly, respectfully, but with a clarity I had never had before. "No, Tanya. I do not want any more stages. I do not want to keep adapting to what suits you. I have already been through everything. I did not try. I accepted. I humiliated myself. I rebuilt myself. And now, finally, I found myself. I do not want to lose myself again trying to get you back." She did not answer. She stood still for a few seconds and then ran to the bathroom. I heard her slam the door, and instantly, the sobs began. She cried like I had never heard her cry before. I sat on the edge of the bed in silence. I felt no guilt, no joy, just a strange peace, like when you finally decide to close a door that has been creaking in the darkness for years. I do not know how long she stayed there. I fell asleep before she came out, and for the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. After that night, I fell asleep with a sense of tranquility, as if I had finally closed a chapter that had drained me emotionally for years. I had no idea what was to come. When I woke up, I noticed that the bathroom door was still closed. I checked the clock. It was already past 9 in the morning. I heard no noise inside. No running water, no movements, nothing. I approached and knocked on the door gently. "Tanya, are you okay?" Nothing. I knocked again, this time harder. "Tanya." Silence. I cannot deny that, despite everything we had been through, I still had affection for her. It was not about love. I did not want to get back with her, but there was a kind of strange, nostalgic affection. After all, she was also my friend. We shared years together. She knew me in my worst moments. It would be inhuman not to worry. I bent down to look underneath, and there I saw it. A trickle of blood was coming out from under the door. My stomach churned. My heart leaped so hard that, for a second, I thought I was going to faint. "Tanya," I shouted, banging on the door with both hands. "Answer. What did you do?" I tried to break down the door, but it was locked from the inside. There was no way. I ran to the tool room, grabbed the first thing I found, a small iron bar I used to fix shelves. I called 911 with my other hand as I returned. "My wife. I think she tried to hurt herself. There is blood. She is not answering." I am forcing the door. While talking to the operator, I managed to break the lock. When I finally entered, I was met with an image that will haunt me forever, even if I do not want it to. Tanya on the floor, with her wrists cut, unconscious, pale as a sheet. There was too much blood. Too much. I shouted her name. I knelt beside her. I felt a faint pulse. She was alive. I carried her as best I could, without thinking. I went out with her in my arms, just as the ambulance arrived. I do not know if it was fate, the speed with which I acted, or pure luck, but they managed to stabilize her. She spent several hours under observation, then was taken to psychiatry. They did not let me see her. They said she needed to rest, to be calm, and that her emotional state was delicate. I called her parents. I did not know what else to do. I told them what had happened. I did not go into details, just enough for them to understand the seriousness of the matter. Her mother burst into tears. Her father became furious. He yelled at me over the phone. He blamed me. "How did you let it get to this? What did you do to her?" I did not respond with aggression. I just told him the truth. "Right now, Tanya needs you, so let us leave the details for later." I had no further contact with them until months later, when the divorce was finalized. After the attempt, Tanya continued with psychiatric care. According to a mutual friend, she was medicated for a while, attended therapy several times a week. Her parents supported her greatly, accompanied her to every appointment, took turns staying with her in the apartment while she recovered. Our divorce was a silent process. There were no lawsuits or disputes. We had married with separation of property, so everything was quick. I did not ask for anything. She could not either. I am glad she did not die. It would be something I could not live with. Although it sounds contradictory, I do not wish her harm. Tanya is not a movie villain. She is a person with mistakes, like everyone. Only her decisions dragged us to a dark place where there was no longer room for love. Sometimes I have wondered if it was my infidelity that pushed her to do what she did, but then I remember everything I kept silent, everything I endured, everything I sacrificed, and I understand that this was not the fault of a single night or a single argument. It was the inevitable outcome of a relationship built on imbalance, on emotional inequality. Today I am calm. I have decided to take a break from dating. I have already lived the stage of wanting to prove that I could attract other people. I have already proven to myself that I could rebuild myself. But now I want something different, something sincere, someone with whom I do not have to hide my fears or negotiate my dignity. I am not looking for revenge. I do not want to win. I just want to move forward. And if I can say anything to whoever reads this, it is, do not accept a relationship that makes you feel less, not for love, not for fear, not for habit, because in the end, The worst abandonment is not that someone leaves. It is that you stay knowing that you are no longer with yourself.